Well, when it really comes down to it, we all gangsters in the gang of love for real, you know what I mean? And that's born of the blood, kind of, you know what I mean? Love lives in our blood. It lives in our bloodstream. We are that bloodstream of life, the flow through which life comes into creation, man. You feel that flow coming through the top of your head into your heart and expanding outward from there. That's how we operate. That's our reality. But before we go traipsing off to paradise, let's talk first about the cookie business. Sweeten things up here a bit, huh? Oakley, yeah, let's sweeten them up a little bit. Don't you go getting all excited on me now. I have to cut off the video and wait till you're done barking, buddy, so be cool. He's a good guy, and I tell you what, one of the sweetest little animals. He's only been with me for about a week now, and he's one of the sweetest little animals you'd ever want to meet. So I just want you to know Grandpa's got his comfort of heart from his dog family once again. Not that the more the merrier. You got to have at least two. You know what I mean? We're pack animals as coyotes, and you got to have at least two, don't you, buddy? Yes, you do. So anyway, cookie business. One of my favorite occupations in my lifetime. I undertook a little business. It was in the early 80s, I reckon. Uh, I'd been driving truck for about 10 years straight, and I was getting a little burned out, a little tired, I'd changed jobs a few times in that 10 years, of course, because I'm a restless soul. And I just don't settle well, I'll be on a position for a while and everything will go good, and then it's not so good, and I move. If something's not making me happy, if I'm unhappy, I move. I don't stay on a job that ain't making me happy. You know what I mean? And if it's interfering with my life in some way, guess what? It's going to change. So that's the way I've been pretty much all my life. Thank God for retirement, let me tell you. It may be a meager subsistence existence, but baby, thank God for it. Then you can get into the spirit, baby, and have some support behind you. It's pretty awesome. I like retirement. You done barking, Okie? Come here, buddy. Get over here and come sit with your old man, huh? Help me talk to the people here. Share some good heart, some good soul, some good life with everybody, huh? Say hi. Hi, everybody. This is Oakley. He's my constant companion most of the time. I went to a community dinner today here in Crestone, Colorado, and that's the one time I'll leave him behind. And poor boy cries 5-10 minutes after I leave. My friend was here watching, and gee whiz, he's really attached. It's like he's been living with me for 100 years already. He's a good boy. I really love having the dog energy in my life. It makes a huge difference. Um, some of us that tend towards the spiritual side of things, we tend to be a little flighty, a little out of our body, and having some good ground and dog energy in your life can really help, because if nobody else does, the dog understands. So you don't have to reach far for an understanding heart. And I tell you, in your lonely times, or even in your not so lonely times, the dog energy, and I know some of you get it from the cat too. It's cool. I mean, it comes from wherever it comes, but the animal energy is like, it's there when you need it. It's Mother Earth's way of helping us get through, by providing us with these understanding hearts that come from the Mother Earth, that are closer to her than we are and have better senses about it in a way. And maybe they can train us right into that stuff if we'll just listen and pay attention to them a little bit. Not just mollycoddle them or ignore them as most people do. God, it's sad. Take better care of your animals, and this earth will take better care of you. It's just the way things go. Call it instant karma, whatever you want, but it's really true. If you be kind to the animals, the earth will be kind to you. If you just retard the hardness in your heart a little bit and start caring, you know. Next time you see a turtle crossing the road, stop for the son of a gun and help him get out of the way. Things like that. You know what I mean? Be chill with mama's animals and mama's plants and trees and birds and everything as well, of course. And mama will be really chill with you. Mama likes it when you show her critters some respect. And that means you're starting to show some to yourself finally. So anyway, this cookie business was a crazy business. But I've been driving truck, like I said, for 10 years. Restless soul that I am, you know. Some of us are just born this way. You know, we're born restless. In fact, most humans are. But some of us are real conscious of it from the time we're tiny. And our little feet itch as soon as we figure out what a roadway and a railway and an airplane is and stuff like that. We want to start going places. There's something that's not quite satisfactory where we are, you know? And so we got to go other places and see if it's there and keep moving on. Pretty much all of our life, you know? There are these times in your life when you settle and you get some roots, you know? But they wither pretty fast, you know? And the wind comes along and baby, you drift. It's what happens when you're leading a life on the edge. So now you understand, going into this cookie business, I'm a bit of an edge player, which means I'll take chances that other people will not. I don't see any danger in taking a risk. You know, I've got good angels and, you know, life's been fairly kind to me despite all the battering I had to take, you know. So this is like the early 1980s, and I'm restless. So I just quit truck driving, and I found some solar stuff that I thought was pretty cool, and I thought I'd rep that for a little bit, because I'm kind of handy at that kind of stuff. You know, if I like something and it seems to be doing a good job and it's a worthy investment, I don't mind representing. I mean, in the past, I've done this. Quite the guerrilla marketeer. I've learned a lot. But that didn't prove satisfactory, you know. Those things were still in the early stages of development, and I just couldn't in good conscience, after I realized how complicated it was and how inefficient it could be if it wasn't done just right, etc. I realized, well, this isn't the thing I ought to be doing. So while I was out traipsing around with that, I happened across this little pizza and cookie store. And I loved the place, you know, and it had a good vibe. The food was pretty good. The cookies were outrageous, you know, one of the best I'd ever eaten. And I thought to myself, well, now here's a product that I could represent, you know. Cookies are cool, and this one is tasty, you know. So I looked this company up a day or two later when I had a few minutes, and I went down and seen him. And of course, you know, I'm a bit of a bullshitter, you know, as far as not like I tell lies and exaggerate, but like that I got a lot of stories, and I have a way about me that I can, you know, get people on my side pretty quickly, or at least come in my direction. So these guys that ran this company didn't stand a chance. You know, I talked to them just a little bit, and you could see dollar signs in their eyes, you know. Well, you got to play that game. I'm a young guy then still, and you got to play that game a little, you know. So anyway, when their cash register went ka-ching, I got a position with them and greatly expanded their market. We were serving, I got the stuff, developed it into these little mom and pop gas station convenience stores around the state, and got the 7-Elevens on board, things like that. So I doubled their business basically overnight. And then they got greedy and, of course, didn't want to pay me what they said they would. Wanted to charge me for this and that. I mean, you know how it goes. It's sad when you help somebody. Sometimes they lack the ability to appreciate things, and their cash register won't quit going off, and so they get greedy. and they try to fuck you over some way, and usually they do. So these guys made their little play, and I just walked out the door. I says, we'll just see about that, because it was my business. I built it. I was the independent agent. And if they didn't care to have me represent them any longer, wouldn't treat me fairly, then I'd go elsewhere, and do my own thing. So I quickly developed a cookie recipe overnight. Went to a baker friend of mine and says, would you, bake these for me 2-3 times a week under contract? And sure enough, we made a deal. And it kind of went from there. And that first cookie was kind of a failure. It wasn't very good. But my stores were kind to me and gave me a little stumble time to get it rolling. By the third week in my own business, in my own bakery business, cookie manufacturing, if you will, I had a winner on my hands, and I didn't duplicate the recipe of the people that I'd used to work for. I left theirs behind because, that wouldn't be honorable to do theirs, so I did my own thing. I came up with a righteous cookie with a little help from my friends, of course. But that's how you do things. You kind of develop it. This was kind of just doing it on your feet. It was a little risky because I could have blown every account I had. Had they blown back on me for having such an inferior product when I first started out. 'Cause boy, it was inferior. I mean, it's good, but it just wasn't that good. So finally we got a winner. And just went crazy. Pretty soon I got 400 or 500 accounts in 3 different states, and a good cash income rolling in. I'm working my ass off, and I'm taking my little family. Had a wife and 2 kids at the time, and kids were like 12, 14, something like that. And we all bake cookies. I leased a bakery. I made a partnership with a guy and leased a bakery with a great big oven in it and one of them Hobart mixers so we could. And I bought a packaging machine, and we went to town. We could bake 5,000 cookies a night. Which isn't very much, but they're all handmade. So that's a lot, and hand sealed in the little package. My markup wasn't real great on. But I made enough. If I kept volume up, I made enough that, I could keep expanding. I put most of my money back into it, but I could keep expanding. The thing I liked best about it was people loved to see you show up at their store. Hey, Cookie Man. Hey, Cookie Man. It was so much fun to be the Cookie Man. I tell you, for like 3 years, I was the Cookie Man. I had a blast, and I made some money. Not a lot, like I said, it was real marginal. It takes a lot to do that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And then I started getting too big for my britches, and I got some really big accounts, and I had to handle some serious volume. So now instead of steadily building a little business and adding 10, 20 stores a week, I'm just letting it build itself. Instead of sticking with something I already had, I saw I'd made the same mistake the guys before me did. I got greedy. I saw big dollar signs, coming my way, and I had a contract with a huge airline. It took me a few weeks to develop that one, but I got it. And, it was like 5, 10, 15,000 cookies at a shot. Going to be on a daily basis after this first little test. Well, people don't always pay their bills, especially big corporations on time, I was going to realize this going into that, but I didn't. So even though they told me they could pay me in this set amount of time, which was very short, they never did. It was 90 to 120 days. I did see my money, but it was 90 to 120 days later. And well, it put me out of business. All my money was in those cookies I sold those guys. And I couldn't make my routes anymore. Oh, it just broke my heart. Man, and then I'd made a little mistake on this package I had. I could have corrected this one. We tested it first, and it held up just fine. But out there in the field, it only give my cookies 3 days instead of a week. So that hurt me a little bit too. But the combination of things there, and I really needed some expansion capital. And I'd just been running this. I started this thing with $2,000 in my pocket. I mean, shoot, I just was real marginal to begin with. You know what I mean? So just building it a little at a time, but then the stretch. Then you make that leap because you see that big money. You know the potential here. You just don't have the facility to finance it. So then you got to rely on somebody else. So I go to the local banks, and I'm happen to live in Utah at the time, but I'm not a part of the religious culture there. I'm just a part of the color that goes around the fringes in the place. You know what I mean? And as a result of that, I wasn't treated too fairly by the local banks, and I couldn't get shit out of them. So a friend of mine happened to be connected with some other friends who happened to be connected with some other friends, and one of those kind of deals showed up. And there was like $22 million in the offing. And I thought, golly, we're going to do it this time, man. We're going to be selling cookies till we're blue in the face. I'll be bigger than Nabisco, with a gourmet organic cookie in a day, way ahead of its time. You know what I mean? Well, son of a gun. Ultimately, that went south. And so my whole business collapsed, and I had to declare business bankruptcy and shit like that. You know what I mean? But I got most of the people paid off. I tried to treat everybody fairly and take care of them. You know what I mean? But oh my God, I felt so bad. I just fucking threw up my hands. I lost 2 houses in the process in 2 different states. Oh man, and some other stuff. And I wound up living in a little shack for a while. In fact, I was living in an RV for a bit with my wife and 2 kids and dog and cat and all that. Dogs and cat. Yeah, Jesus. It was a rough time. But I got in this little shack, and a friend lined me up with a part-time I'm taxi driving, and I could do that anytime I felt like. But you work some hours when you work, so I'd go in and I'd work maybe 36, 48 hours straight, sometimes 72, and I'd take 12 hours off and then go back and do it again, and I'd do that 2 or 3 times till I had a pocket full of money. And then I'd go play. I'd buy the kids horses, and I bought the kids horses, and animals and stuff, and managed to keep myself busy. But one night driving taxi, I helped this really rich fella out, and he really appreciated what I'd done for him, which wasn't much, but in his book it was a lot, because most people wouldn't do that for him. And it wasn't anything illegal or immoral. I just helped the guy out of a jam. And anyway, long story short, he wanted me to come in to his office Monday morning, and he'd set me up righteously in the cookie business, man. But by then, I was so worn out and so exhausted from the emotional turmoil, let alone all the physical work I'd had to do. And I just was so burnt out, I didn't even bother to go see the guy. And I often wondered what would have happened had I done that. But I know, because I've been in this position before, where real opportunity comes your way, but there's always some compromise you have to make. And maybe I just sensed that coming and just decided not to do that. Because there's some things I won't compromise, and I don't care how much money's involved. Money never meant that much to me anyway. It'd be nice to have a lot, sure. But, in situations like that, I just couldn't do it. I'd come to that place. I'd come so far. And then my morals, my ideals, I don't know what else to call it. Those aren't the right words, but it's close. My feelings would catch up to me and then say, hey, old man, what you doing? Years later, I had this successful little marketing company, a little one-man marketing company up and down the West Coast. Hell, I had a ball. Another 3-year roll, baby. It was good. But a lot of the skills I acquired selling cookies, I used in that business. But Long story short, I had a client there that tried to hire me away and started offering me, all of the accoutrements and a 7, 8 figure income to boot. And all I had to do was work on the super secret side of life for a while. I looked at it, I couldn't compromise that much. I just couldn't. That's like sleeping with the enemy. At least that's how I felt about it in the time. I've always kind of had this hippie ideal. I've liked being in business where I could be of service to others, but I've never really appreciated the attitude of money and what it creates in people. So it's been a strange existence trying to bridge those two worlds, trying to find a way to do it, where I could bring love ideals and apply them in business. I tried it all my life, off and on, of course, because you get burned out, hell, and I have to admit I was quite depressed in that time frame after my so-called failure there and losing 2 houses to boot. I was lucky I managed to hang on to my family, you know what I mean? My ex was pretty damn loyal to go through that with me, I'll tell you. It was a tough time. But we got through it, and things got better. And, after a while, of course, I went back to driving truck because that's where I can make some money. And it's not near as dangerous as taxi driving, let me tell you that. That taxiing can hurt you. But I was never hurt. I was charmed. I had angels all the time, and I did better business than most of the guys there. And I didn't have to be crooked to do it. I didn't have to play the game. 'Cause everything has its hustle. Everything has its scam, its edge. And if you're a wise guy or girl, you go play the edge. Well, I never been that way. So even taxiing, I just trusted my angels, I guess. And they brought me business when nobody else had business. And I managed to always make a little money. I never made a fortune, but, I got by. I did well. And it was a good cruise place for a while. And even though there were a few dangerous incidents where weapons were drawn and, people tried to beat you up and stuff, even though a few of those happened, I managed to get through them without getting hurt. And not anybody else getting hurt either. So it all worked out in the wash, man. I tell you, having good angels, and you're going to be an edge player, having good angels really, really, really helps, even when you don't know it. By then, I think I'd figured it out, yeah. But of course, and I would talk to them, and they would. So what's the point of all of this experience? Well, friends, brothers and sisters, babies in arms, I'm telling you, it's been an experience, a ride. And by stretching it the way I have, by playing the edge, I have managed to gather many opposite energies together in myself and find some kind of coagulating peace there. Bring it all home, babies, And you start to look at your experience, you'll see the same kind of thing. That, that little failure in the cookie business was one of my greatest successes, And the reason being, it redirected me. It brought me back to where I had to deal with things on the heart level again and start to reminisce, bring myself back into myself. It's not an easy thing. And you got to understand, I've been in shock since I was a little kid. I know everybody knows how this is because everybody gets it one way or another. But out of that came some of the sweetest meetings with people I'd ever known. I mean, things just really got sweet in my life for a while, And I managed to reestablish the family in a real sweet place up there in Oregon and just lived a hell of a life. Pretty soon had a trail string going on and taking tourists from all over the world on trail rides. And you can't find a more satisfying business than that. And again, it's another that requires a lot of hard work. But I had my kids, and they loved animals, and the animals loved them. So everything was working, for a while. And it's those beautiful times that wouldn't have been there at all had I gone the other way and made a ton of money. You know, I may never have escaped my home state. And baby, it was throttling me. Things in your life that you don't even realize are hurting you or taking you down exist. And sometimes things happen to redirect you and get you the hell out of these bad situations where the energy is chewing you up. Well, I had trouble getting my family out of Utah. I had no trouble getting myself out of there. But to get them moved, it took some impetus. And so this little extension into business and the resulting chaotic rearrangement in my life brought me to that place, brought the family to that place, and pretty soon we just made the commitment, got out of there. Now that's another story I'll tell you some other time about trying to leave Utah, which had, even though I was a rebel, I wasn't a part of the religious or cultural scene in that way, you know, it still had its hold on me. And when I tried to leave, it didn't want to let me go. I mean, for real. When I pulled up stakes and didn't keep the family there or any furniture or anything, took it all, you know. That's when it tried to hold me back. So that's a story for another time. But babies, the reason I'm telling you this whole thing, us restless souls have to find peace with all of that. And this is how we do it. You take a look at these little stories in your own life, you know. And what you thought was your biggest failure turns out to be your biggest success because it redirects you. It sends you in the direction of the heart, where your heart's calling you. Babies, when I went back to Oregon, I found home. I found a life. I mean, there was a lot of turmoil. Yeah, always is. But I found life. I found myself there. I came back to life. I lost the shock. I went through the death and came back to life again and again. And only in that area, that country, could I have done it. The energy was clear there. It was free and natural, and it worked for me. And I got guided and directed to these magical places where such things could happen. And I began to grow. I lived in a reality of spirit and heart, which I could only talk about before, even though I knew it. It became that reality. I connected with that spotted eagle there and became that spotted eagle, same way. People, sometimes life will pull you in very harsh directions, and you'll lose every fucking thing you own and then some, the respect of everybody, you know, everything. But it's because there's something going on you're not paying attention to. It's time to look in another direction, to redirect in the way of the heart. And if you become conscious of this, such experiences will no longer be devastating. Because that's the experience we're all going through right now. Every one of us. I don't care if you're a tribal being in South America or, you know, an organic, healthy as a horse Norwegian living up there in the cold Northlands, you know, and anything in between. Everybody's life is being challenged right now. And it's seeming like it's a failure for most of us, because every attitude we have, every experience we've known, all of the little parameters by which we live are being taken away, proven ineffective. The bottom's fallen out of the economy. The money's worthless. I mean, you know, and on and on and on. It's because as a planet and a people, we're being redirected. Again, I point out to you, it's like a birth, and there is some pain involved, and a lot of letting go. You can only stay in the womb so long, And then you got to come out into the cold reality. Only this time, the reality we came out into isn't so cold. It's paradise, babies, awakeness. Paradise. And it lives within us. That's where we seek. That's where we find. And if our travels have proven anything to us, it's all those arrows pointing back right at your heart, right at mine. This is where we live. This is how we do what we do. This is how we find peace in ourselves, the same way my little doggy just did. Find some peace. Babies, I love you, and I'm always thinking of you. And you know, we all live in a divine heart. The criminals and thieves, the politicians, the jockeys, the garbage people, you know, everybody. We all live in a divine heart made of pure love. Contemplate that for a little while, babies. I'll talk to you in a bit. I sure do love you. So does little Oakley, too. Say bye, Oakley. Bye. He's such a watchdog. Love you guys. Take care.